It has been 1 year since President Joe Biden has nominated his pick to replace Ajit Pai on the FCC. So Ajit Pai, of course, after Trump had lost re-election, had resigned from his position. And Ars Technica is reporting that 1 year ago today, Biden had nominated Gigi Sohn to the empty spot on the FCC. That spot is still empty as of today. Now, here's the thing. Democrats have made a pretty big deal about restoring net neutrality. Biden did, of course, and he made actually a pretty good nomination. So I'm not going to fault him on this. But the nomination has gone to the Senate, which has not picked it up at all. And look, net neutrality protections were removed during the Trump administration, which has allowed ISPs to raise prices and police content online, which is not good. That's an issue that affects all of us, whether you're progressive, a liberal, or conservative. It affects everybody because a free and fair internet, well, is incredibly important to small business, big business, again, telecommunications, everything. If it deals with the internet, it's kind of important to have net neutrality. And which net neutrality is basically treating everything equal online and not favoring one or the other. So that said, the thing about Sohn is that she is, again, as I mentioned, a pretty good pick for the FCC, as she's actually been a consumer advocate and an advocate for free speech. She had even worked in the Obama-era FCC. If she is confirmed, she would give Chairwoman Jessica Rosenworcel the tie-breaking vote needed to reverse Trump-era deregulation of broadband industry, as well as restoring these net neutrality rules. So then why is she still waiting? Well, you know the answer to that. Money. Comcast, one of the companies that is against net neutrality rules, has lobbied very hard against Sohn just behind the scenes, despite not publicly opposing the nomination. Not only that, but Republicans had vowed to prevent Sohn's confirmation, with Senator Ted Cruz and others claiming that she would use the post at the FCC to, what is it? What is the line that they always go to? They're going to censor conservatives! Which is funny because that's not what conservatives are saying. Now, Republicans in the Senate, who are, House and Senate, who are all corrupt, by the way, paid off by giant lobbyists. They're the ones that are saying, they're going to censor conservatives, But really, conservatives online, and I'm going to give you really two big examples here of conservative outlets saying, actually, no, she's great. We support her. We don't agree with everything that she does. She's progressive, but this is an issue that actually does matter to us. Being treated equally and fairly on the internet, having all content being treated equally. Newsmax and One America News, two organizations I never thought I would align with an issue on, they're full support of Sohn's nomination, as well as many progressives and progressive groups. In fact, One America News and Newsmax praised Sohn's longtime commitment to freedom of speech. As Axios has reported, Sohn was on the same side as both Newsmax and OAN in opposing the Sinclair Tribune deal, which again creates monopolies. Media consolidation is a huge problem in this country. And again, it doesn't just affect progressives. It affects progressives, liberals, and conservatives. We all get screwed over when there are giant corporate monopolies. Now, smaller conservative networks, as Axios notes, have more to gain from Sohn's record that favors independent programmers. Now, there's a letter from Charles Herring, in fact, and I'm going to show you that. It might be a little bit difficult for you to read, but just to show you that it is official. Okay. Again, difficult to read. But they're in full support for Gigi Sohn. That's OAN. Crazy. Now, that said, getting back to the Senate, you have senators like Lindsey Graham, who called her a, quote, complete political ideologue who has disdain for conservatives. Well, look, I have disdain for conservatives. That doesn't mean I'm not going to align with them on the issue of net neutrality. Of course I do. Because it's the right thing to do. The Wall Street Journal's editorial board went even further, alleged this month that Sohn favors destroying the agency's regulatory power to shackle broadband providers and silence conservative voices. Really? Deploying regulatory power to silence conservatives. What? No. Now, here's the thing. Lindsey Graham happened to have gotten about $10,000 in donations in 1 year. This is the 2020 cycle from Comcast. Lindsey Graham, $10,000. Wow, that came cheap. That's not all. 70% of Comcast political contributions in the Senate went to Republicans. About 73% specifically. 52% of House donations made by Comcast went to Republicans. So overwhelmingly, and again, that's because the Senate can take up these appointments and do confirmations to the FCC. Very important. Now, as I mentioned, 70%, yes, went to Republicans. Where's the other, well, roughly 27%? Where did that go? Well, obviously it went to Democrats. And when you have a Senate that is 50-50 with Kamala Harris as the tie-breaking vote, you don't need that many. You don't need that many Democrats on your side. You just need one. And guess what? They have one. Joe Manchin, of course. He has received money from lobbyists and opposes this vote. Again, you have to have every Democrat that has to, do a confirmation vote, or else she ain't getting it confirmed. And that's why, according to the Washington Post, AT&T, Comcast, Verizon, and T-Mobile, these telecom companies, have spent over $23 million combined lobbying Washington so far this year, with Comcast leading the pack at $7.4 million, according to data from Open Secrets. It's not clear how much was spent on opposing Sohn's nomination specifically, as those numbers are not specified in lobbying disclosures. However, Comcast this year, according to the Washington Post, paid former Senate Majority Leader Tom Daschle and his firm $30,000 to lobby on the status of FCC nominations, among other issues, according to a July disclosure filing. Comcast has hired lobbyists with ties to West Virginia and Arizona, possibly to influence Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. Sinema voted for Sohn during the committee hearing, but has still been seen as a possible holdout for a full Senate vote. Now, in the committee, the vote was 14-14 among party lines. Now, well, you have to have Chuck Schumer to introduce this, and Chuck Schumer has not introduced this. About 250 groups, and that, by the way, that's because Schumer also has family members that are working in the telecommunications industry. Let's be fair about that. That's why, very likely why this is happening. Now, about 250 groups have urged the Senate to finally vote on Sohn's nomination. In a letter to Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, the letter was signed by many advocacy groups, including Public Knowledge, the Benton Institute for Broadband and Society, Common Cause, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, Fight for the Future, Free Press, the Institute for Local Self-Reliance, the National Digital Inclusion Alliance, New America's Open Technology Institute, and the Schools, Health, and Libraries Broadband Coalition. The letter was also signed by some in the telecom industry, including Dish, Encompass, NTCA, the Rural Broadband Association, the Rural Wireless Association, Sonic, Starry, and Zio Group, as well as tech industry groups, including the Chamber of Progress, the Computer and Communications Industry Association, the Computing Technology Industry Association, and the Consumer Technology Association. A lot of these groups are saying we do want a free and fair internet. That's it. We want all content in the internet to be treated equally. We do not want to have one company, for example, Google, boosting its own products and services over competitors using that search engine, or Amazon doing the same thing, uplisting its own products and services over everyone else because you are forced to use that platform because no one else has a big enough platform. Because that's what they're doing right now without net neutrality. You can see why this hurts small business, actual small business. If you care about small business, if you give a crap about competition, then you would be in favor of an open internet. And that's why all of these smaller groups are. And that's why lobbyists from big corporations despise it because they hate competition. They hate freedom. Now, there's more. Okay, so let me read some of that letter. Over Ms. Sohn's 30 years of experience in telecommunications, broadband, and technology policy, she has shown a strong commitment to the First Amendment and has proven to be a leader in promoting innovation, U.S. jobs, and a strong economy. She has regularly worked with organizations representing diverse media interests and across the aisle to ensure all voices and views are heard both as a consumer advocate and as a government official. Her consistent and long-held support of diversity and viewpoints in media will serve all voices well, and it's why she is supported by both conservatives and progressives. They also add, Sohn has worked extensively during her career to expand broadband access to those who cannot afford it. For example, by working with industry and members of Congress in developing programs which support low-income Americans, including those in rural and tribal lands. Sohn's life work is the embodiment of the FCC's mission. Simply cannot allow a less than fully functioning FCC to persist any longer. Again, what's stopping this is money. That's it. The politicians are not being challenged to vote on this. Chuck Schumer is not being pressured enough to put this on the floor. Joe Manchin is not being pressured enough to vote in favor of this for her confirmation. She is liked by both, except when it comes to the Senate, progressives and conservatives. And the other problem here is it's been a year, and guess what? The FCC is still gutted, and we're running out of time. Tick tock. The midterms are coming up. Midterms, they're not looking good for Democrats. The Senate is about to get wiped out. If the polls are correct, Republicans might pick up an additional couple of seats. That means nothing's going to happen. Because Republicans, as I just showed you, they're 100% corrupt and against this. Democrats, they're still a shot if there's enough pressure put on them by the voters. So we got a couple of weeks at most. If you want this to happen, if you want Gigi to actually be put on the FCC before Biden becomes a lame duck, well, then you got to act fast. If not, these companies are going to continue to merge and raise prices and fees and continue to be anti-consumer for their own profit margins. If you care about this issue, if you care about net neutrality, care about equality on the internet, then you might want to give Chuck Schumer a call or jingle. Be nice about it, but firm, and tell him to support Gigi Sohn, to bring her out, her confirmation out for a vote, and to get Manchin, Sinema, and the rest of the party on board.